morning, Susan, Sven, or for our listeners who go into replay, good afternoon or good evening. How are you? Lovely to see you.
Thank you, Guy. Doing really well.
Hey, it's very nice here.
Yeah,
Even with, we're still under
it's doing really well.
under some workload, but everything is fantastic. Thank you.
It's lovely that we are covered under a workload, isn't it? Let me first introduce you to our listeners, because perhaps not everybody know you guys.
Yeah, thank you
So
for speaking English,
Susan,
Guy.
excuse me?
Thank you for speaking English with us, and to all your listeners. We just want to thank you because, yeah, this
Oh,
is our only language.
that's okay, darling. I had this thought this morning, like, shall we do this in Dutch? But then I thought, like, perhaps it's a bit difficult for Susan and Sven, you know?
Well, it's beyond difficult. It would be called impossible.
We would have to just tune in. We'd just have to tune in.
Yeah.
See what.
Well, yeah, my guides speak as well as Dutch and English, so yeah, you never know. Anyway, Susan, you are a highly intuitive healer and a very skilled energy dowser, right? And you also work with the Spirit Doctor team, which is not the team for today, but I think we will have a small chat about that because I think it's all together, right? And as a dowser, you blend your intuitive base with precise technical skills to assist people for removing obstacles, raising energy levels, and reclaiming lost aspects of their soul's essence. So that already sounds extremely interesting to talk about. And Sven, you are also an energy dowser. You work with clients to clear all patterns and to investigate root causes of disharmony in the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual states of being. You are down to earth, a no-nonsense demeanor, and you meld this with your intuitive and psychic abilities, and you create a grounded base for open dialogue, trust, and self-exploration. And a lot of your clients, they feel deeply held in this energy field. They see themselves without judgment when you offer them an assisting hand through the healing process. So, Susan and Sven, this sounds so interesting. To the listeners, and Sven is also decades of experience in rolling. How do you say it again?
Ralphing.
All right. So, but first, let us introduce ourselves to our listeners. So let's start women first, of course. Susan, give us a bit of better introduction, because this Spirit Doctor thing also triggers my interest.
Yeah, well, the Spirit Doctor team was presented to us first as we were receiving their work with a former teacher that we had, Dr. Werner Yater, who's passed away. And we worked with her for a good 7 or 8 years. And that was the beginning of our, this is like 20 years ago, the beginning of my path in this healing area. And so lots of clearing work. And then also this introduction of the Spirit Doctor team, who are multidimensional beings who are on spirit side. And they're comprised of physicians, shamans, and healers. And they united on spirit side to work with us. So it's a little bit of a journey of how I got to where I am, from receiving their work to giving their work, facilitating the work, and now actually training people to do this. So, but the biggest part of the journey was the clearing that I needed to do, and the realization that I needed to step into my own, let's say, life mission. I needed to step in because for a long time after Verna passed away, I knew that this was a legacy she had passed to me, but it took me like 2 years to sort of work through that. Am I good enough? Can I really do this? And so it was an interesting journey. And then when I realized I wasn't going to, well, because she was such a beautiful, impeccable teacher, I never thought that I could fill her shoes. And then I realized, once I finally realized, I needed to fill my shoes. And that's the path that I took. And of course, meeting Sven back 20 something years ago, he was already on the healing path. So it took me from a performing arts career that I had in dance and began to sort of shift my focus. So it's his fault.
We come back to that later.
Yes. But also just
we always do.
Yeah.
The Spirit Doctor team, although their work is very very specific in a way, it's really with healing and clearing. But when we do our dowsing work together, which we do together, we always invoke their presence as well. So just to say that, along with spirit world, spirit guides, yeah.
That's what I thought, is because the topic today is dowsing with spirit, but I had this feeling on they must be involved, this spirit doctor group. I mean, it's a part of your life, but I think it's also part of your physical being as well as in your spiritual being. Is that correct?
Yeah, I feel the more as time goes on, they've just, it's an integration with me. And I think that's when I took the step forward to meet them a little more closely, because for a long time, I kept them as a team that I was always observing what they were doing and sort of scribing what they were doing, giving to the client. And over time, I merged with them. And that's the big part of the practice, especially for the new people coming in, is to really be able to step into that role and embody it, and to feel worthy of, and as the spirit doctors have said, as more people are coming in with their various unique gifts and skill sets, it expands the team. And we call ourselves the ground crew, but they have told us so beautifully that here on spirit side, we are also still expanding. We're not just in a static level, right? That they're also expanding. So I find that really exciting. Yeah.
Many people think that working with spirit is a one-way direction, information coming and healing coming from spirit. But as you said, me too, I have this feeling it's a two-way direction. I mean, we are getting healed, but they can, as you said, grow, in fact, still a little bit more, taking our human experiences, and everybody has nearly everyday new experiences. So now let's go to Sven, because he's sitting there so very quiet, thinking about this guilt.
So my guy, he likes to go second. He always tells me to go first.
It makes me feel comfortable.
Yeah, he's very humble. I mean, we met in Mallorca. We met first in London, and then we met in Mallorca. And I had this feeling that both of you are very humble, which is, of course, very good to work with spirits. So, Sven, a few decades ago, you dragged Susan away from her professional dancing career, and you were a raffler. Yeah.
I started out as a firefighter paramedic in Los Angeles for 15 years. My deal in life is, like, I've always liked helping people, working with people, and usually it's because there's an issue or a problem. I got hurt as a firefighter, and I went through a bunch of surgeries, and that's how I got into rolfing. I went through, and I became disabled physically, according to the standards that be. I don't feel like that myself. But I got into the holistic field of rolfing. And what happened was, I love rolfing. I love doing it. But what got my interest was why certain things that we do with people, they don't stick or hold. And this is what began my exploration into the mind, into the subconscious mind. And so I studied numerous modalities, and they're all good. You know, they're all the energetic stuff, hypnotherapy, color therapy, but they didn't stick as much as I wanted. And then I came across the dowsing, and the reason that I was so attracted to dowsing was because um, it it led us to address what an issue or a problem is or a trouble that a person's having. Because once we look at that, and we're very specific in the way that we go about this, Susan and I, we work together wonderfully as a team because we each come from two different angles. So when a person has something, dowsing is really a specific form of prayer. Our teaching comes from generations of native North American shamans. And so when someone comes and they have something, we're able to focus in and look at the energy, look at the frequency, look at the vibration of where they live, of what's going on. And then we have ways to clear the things that are happening. And because once we clear these things, then we can invite in all the love and the light that we all have. And so in dowsing, which is very, very efficient, very effective, we work with people and with whatever is going on, anything that's happening. And, we each have our own unique life experiences that we blend together. And this is how we work. We each have our own separate work in addition to the dowsing, which we do together. And it surprised me at first because I never thought it would be as popular as it's turned out to be, because I thought teaching breath work or doing the Rolfing or doing what Susan did, I always thought they would be the most popular. But people love the dowsing because they come forward and they say, "Hey, I got something going on here. Would you check this out?" And we're very effective at saying, "Yeah, let's take a look at it." And then it's just a very specific, simple form of prayer. But we have the ability, especially we work together, to identify what it is that's going on. People, they don't come to us because they won the lottery.
You win the lottery, I think a lot of problems already disappear in life.
Boy, I agree. I agree with you on that one. And I do know several people who have gone through that process. But anyway, that's what the dowsing is about that we do together.
Well, to our listeners, if I may say, a few months ago, I had the honor. I was a bit in a not so good state, because we all know the saying, also the healer needs healing. And I was very lucky to know Susan and Sven, and they did this dowsing session with me, an energetic dowsing session. And I must say, again, thank you very much, because it cleared so much of old patterns and stuff that was dragging my feet, like it was dragging like an anchor behind me with a cord attached to my body. And you guys cleared this, so I could move forward on my next stage in my work, my spiritual side and everything. So to all our listeners, if you have anything, or if you are drawn to this beautiful couple, make contact. I'm 100% sure they can help you. And Susan, both of you are consultants at CPS, the College of Psychic Studies, where you train people. For you, I saw it's the spirit doctor. Well, shall we call it a workshop? No, it's more an education, I think.
Yeah, it's a professional training program. Yeah, that's they call certificated. So at the end, you get a certificate of this 8-month process. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And Sven, you're doing the breathing sessions at CPS also, but then people also can contact you directly, isn't it, for this spiritual doctor side? Or am I misunderstanding this?
Well, the program, the training program is going to go solely through the College of Psychic Studies this year for sure.
Ah, okay, good.
Yes,
Yeah, right.
a very exciting collaboration. When we had the opportunity, we'll have the opportunity again to go there in person, and that's how we met you, Guy. You know, as you
Yes.
burst into the doors with Natalie, this beautiful 2 light beams. They're like, who are those guys?
Thank you, thank you.
We love the college. We love the energy there. You know, the people that we meet, and so it's been a really beautiful collaboration. It's a win-win situation.
They're beautiful people. Now, for you know, we do the vast majority of our work is on Zoom, and I teach the breath work, the meditation, and Susan and I right now are each in the middle of like a 6-week program of going through this course and the 2 courses, and it's a beautiful honor to work with them. Yeah. It really is, because the people that we attract are wonderful. I mean, it's really a honoring experience with our collaboration with them. Yeah. And they're our friends, you know, the people who lead the college. So,
well, just as an interesting point, the very first time we went there, it was such a, well, we had a beautiful email connection already going with the director and some of the staff, but we walked through the doors and it was like one of those portals. You walk in, it was like, wow, we've been here before. And then that, you know, and then that night, Sven had a series of sort of lucid dreamings where he sort of tracked it back 100 years ago, said the back of the building, that's where the horse stables were. We need to go back there tomorrow morning. And of course it has that beautiful cobblestone street. Yes. And, you know, they made those cute little apartment houses back there. But he says, this is where the stables were. You worked here and I worked back here. And so it was like, oh, fascinating. You know, when you have those feelings like you've met this person before, you know, this place. You know,
well, the secretary that we first met, I can say her name. Yes, her name's Anita, and she runs up and she gives me a big hug, and she's like a sister. It's like I've known her. Well, I knew her before in a previous life at the college, but the fun thing is you know, we had Susan and I, we had lived basically on top of a mountain for 10 years. Susan, I asked her, would you live with me in isolation for a year to see what happens to our thinking? She said, okay. We stayed 10. Well, when we went to the college in London, you know, they dress up quite nice. You know, their hair's like fixed and they're wearing these shiny black boot shoes and stuff. We're coming from a farm. And when we had met, when we walked in, I had like kind of cleaned my boots off from the farm, but we looked like people who lived on a farm. And when we met them, I could see them looking up and down at us, and we thought we looked nice, but we're in London. We're coming from they're like looking at us, and I realized we've been out of civilization for a bit here, and so
we did have our best
we
clothes.
did adjust. We had our best clothes on, which isn't, you know, a nice pair of jeans to say.
Yeah. So it was a process of working with the college also over the years, because the travel from London back to where we were living was like a 3-day trip, and it eventually steered us, as all things in destiny, right? It kind of steered us coming back into what we call civilization, and we're happy to be here.
Well, the college, CPS, College of Psychic Studies, for our listeners, is a college that is dedicated to train and educate people about numerous items of spiritualism, spiritual sides that you can develop yourself. I had several trainings at CPS, of course, with Susan and Sven. I also had with James Phillip, with Gordon Smith, the medium. I went through his whole course for the mediumship. but I do remember that Natalie and I, and for our listeners, Natalie is my wife, the first time we came through that door, because you have to ring the bell and then they push the buzzer and you can open the door. It felt like, I don't know, coming home, you know? So check it out. CPS, College of Psychic Studies. Susan and Sven are offering their training and workshops over there. But let us now talk about this dowsing, because as you know, I'm a dowser myself. I do workshops about dowsing, but I dowse on a different level, right?
Okay, I'm going to start out.
Sorry.
When we get to the college, we stay there up on the fourth. There's 5 levels. We stay on the 4th floor, and you get tested by the energies, and I'll say entities. If we get into that, you get tested because they if you're not of if they don't like you, you're out. And so we got so tested off the bat. And in our dowsing that we have taught there, I began to say, hey, I can't sleep here because there's so much energetic disruption. And so I picked up my pendulum and I began to dowse, and the energies at the college said, leave us alone. We take care of ourselves here. We got the power, we got the strength. And it was the first time that ever happened with me. It's like, don't worry about it. We have the energy that is so strong, clean, and clear. And so it was fascinating. But the energy there, it's a portal, is extremely strong. It's extremely clear. It's been there 125 years. And, and of course it has this amazing history. Yes, we have taught there numerous times, and you want to go ahead and take off?
No, go ahead. Guy was taking us into the dowsing world, and you switched back to the college.
Well, it's dowsing. No, it's a dowsing story of what transpired at the college, because the energy's so nice there.
Yeah, it is. But I think, I know the college is there situated nearly 125 years, as you said, but I think the energy is already longer there, sitting in the ground, But as I said, being a dowser myself, and the first time I made connection with your system of dowsing, I thought, like, what the heck are they doing? I don't know this. This is completely new for me. Because you guys, you don't just douse the system with the yes or no answer, or you don't just douse, numbers or dates or previous lives or whatever. You go deeper, because you go dowsing with and about energies, as well as the positive as the negative energies. So please tell our listeners.
I'll start.
Okay.
First of all, we're so fortunate. We've had such beautiful teachers that share their experience. When we dowse, the first thing that we look at is what's called a baseline, and we will look at the energetic level of a living space that a person's in. If the energy is low in the living space, the person will have problems. So that's the first thing we look at. And we have numbers that we measure with, and we use a chart, and we use the pendulum.
Yeah.
The pendulum is just a measurement tool. The pendulum is not magic, and it's how we teach people. So we look at the energetic level of their living space. We look at the energetic level of a person, which is different than the living space. We look at what we call is the mental, emotional, body level frequency of a person. And then, of course,
a little bit more.
There's different types of frequencies that we work with. The mental, emotional, body level frequency, we want to be like in what we call in the teens. If a person has a frequency with this particular frequency in the high 20s or 30s, they're going to have They're going to have lack of sleep. They're going to have indecision. They're going to have anxiety, and they're going to have some joint pain. So if they're at level like 27, it's too high. This particular frequency can change during the course of a day. Very typically, when we start working with somebody, they're like a little bit nervous because they don't really know what it is that we're doing.
Yes.
And so their frequency will be a little high. So we'll explain this and just simply drop the frequency down a bit so they're a little more calm and clear. If a person has a body level frequency of 40, we don't have to dowse to say, hey, there's a problem here. So that's something that we lower. This is a frequency that we would lower with a person. Then we look at the history of the land that their house, their living space is situated on. We can look at the ancestral impact of what's gone on. And then if we're going to get in deep here, I guess we will, we can talk about curses, we can talk about entities, we can talk about possessions, because we've had some fascinating experiences with these things. And for us, we work with it all the time. So it becomes like we're just talking like, would you like a cup of coffee? And we don't realize this is a little bit off for people. For us, it's like normal.
But it's people always think, a lot of people think when they hear, negative energy or negative entities. Everybody saw the movie Poltergeist.
Yeah.
But it's not like that, isn't it? It's people don't need to be afraid of something that feels negative or is negative, because it can always be. And I think Susan comes in then with the spirit team on clearing or even changing that energy in a very soft and lovely way.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point you're bringing up, Guy, because in the, that the fear that might arise for somebody, especially we are teaching dowsing because we want to put this tool in as many people's hands as possible, because it's so powerful. It's like the one of the mantras of dowsing is change the energy and change the outcome, right? Mm-hmm. And like your own personal experience and our personal experiences, the things that are holding us back, whether that's from earlier in our life or past life, a psychic cord, an old vow, these things, they're existing in the invisible world. And what's beautiful about dowsing is it begins to make it visible and perceivable. Now, when people, and it's a language that helps us really understand energy. When people come into dowsing, and we do this as more as personal transformation. Some people probably know dowsing as finding water, and that's one of the original ways too, right?
Yes, yes.
But this issue around fear is important, because even in the beginning, when we started, it took me about 1.5 years. I was so paranoid. I was paranoid about everything and everybody at that point, as I was learning about, and it comes to this point where you begin to really balance, okay, the dark and the light, and they have to coexist to exist.
Yes, of course.
So now, I mean, some people say, oh, you're fearless. Like, yeah, well, I wasn't in the beginning, so it's a process.
Yeah. We have no fear with working with what we call the dark side in the beginning, because, and this is of the utmost importance that we share with people, we never do anything ourselves. It's who we pray to that does the work. And we always say for the highest benefit of everybody concerned, because many times if we're working with a client and she's talking about her family, we don't know everything. And what we, and so it takes our ego and our judgment out of what we do, because we talk to who we pray to, and then they do what's appropriate. And this is also of the utmost importance, because we're protected, because we work a lot with the dark side. In the beginning, I mean, we've worked with possessions that are like The Exorcist and have had some great success. But in the beginning, some people are afraid to do this. And so what we share is, if you have fear about that, don't go there. Don't do it. Start with something simple. I, everybody, I think, after a period of time, all of a sudden they're telling us what they have done because they've gained confidence in the way that they work over a year or whatever. But we work with things that are causing problems with people. And then people will say to us occasionally, is there anything good that you guys work with? And we like to, when we close a session, then we invite in the
Yes.
stuff because we're not, we're interested in what's the issue. And so
Yeah.
that's where we go. And we have, a list of questions, and we always ask for a client that we work with, please talk to us.
Participate,
If
yeah.
anything comes up in your mind in the course, because then please share it, because it will take us down a path that we don't expect that we're going to go, because we call it detective work. When we're working with somebody in Dowsing, sometimes it takes us a while because we're like, what is it? What's going on here? Because we're not on target yet. We're not on really what's going on. And sometimes we know right off the bat. Sometimes it might take us a half an hour, and because, Susan will ask questions, I'll observe. I ask questions, Susan will observe. Because when a person is expressing something, they're saying, sometimes they're saying more than the words that they're using.
Exactly.
This is what we look for in our effort, in our desire to work with somebody to help them out. That's what we do.
That's a really nice thing that developed too for us and anybody who stays with this form of working with energy, because you begin to what I tell people that are training with us, have like a soft gaze and a soft listening. So you're not listening to every detail of the story, but you're going to get the big story, right? And so that's one of the gifts of doing it for a while. You begin to really have that.
Yes.
That.
That's what I noticed also with you both is, and surely, because we talked, well, first we met in London. You knocked me down in London, Susan. I still remember you did this and I fell over.
Oh, right.
You remember?
Yeah.
So I always say I've been knocked down by a lovely lady in London.
Oh, you have to explain that one.
I think I'm the guy who caught you.
and then we had a few online sessions, talking and everything. But then we met physically in Mallorca, and we spent the day together. And what I saw is that each of you individual has a beautiful, powerful energy. But at certain points, these both energies, they blend to one. And I think that also happens when you work with clients, that it blends to one energy. And that's so beautiful to see when you work as a couple, that the energy really blends, right? So it's beautiful. And I think that didn't came also from day one. But as they say, the universe provides.
It does.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll have a session with somebody, and Susan will take the lead. And sometimes we'll have a session and I'll take the lead, because there's a different resonance. But we're always together. But, sometimes there's one of us just is able to relate in a different way, and doesn't mean anything about a male or female. It's just different. But here's the interesting thing is that a couple of times Susan was traveling and I was asked to do dowsing for somebody, and we I guess we're codependent because it's really hard alone. Simple things
Yes,
are easy, but
yes.
we've gotten codependent in our work together.
Well, I just got, okay, now I got to chime in here. So that's an because we went from blending to codependence. And it is kind of an interesting thing because obviously as dowsers, we can douse anything separate of each other, obviously. But in doing this particular work, which I call personal transformational work, it is something that, as you so nicely said, blended, Guy, and I think that is it. So that if I wouldn't do a dowsing session by myself at this point, and I don't know if that we always talk about is that a good thing or a bad thing, but it is the way it is, and because Sven brings a whole history that's so different than mine, even his childhood, right? So he can tap in and tune into things that I have no experience with.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
but we always say that too, because of course we work with dowsers who are going to be working by themselves. But why we also created this thing we call the Dowsing Lab, where we come together because it is it's a community where you can call on and say, hey, I'm working on this thing for myself, so I might need a little help. I might have a little blind spot here. And they have someone to call because we definitely want to empower each individual that's coming. You can do this. You can get your pendulum, your chart, and do this work, But it's nice to have a community to call on. That support, right?
Yeah, this is important because in our goal in teaching the dowsing that we do is for people to learn to do it on their own. We don't want people dependent on us. We
no,
want to say, here's how you do it. And we have this dowsing lab. We meet once a month with people who we've shared the dowsing with. And we get together because it's great to have communication and say, hey, I got a question or I did something and I'm not sure about this. And we've met, I guess, 4 or 5 years now, once a month. And but our goal in dowsing is, of course, to work with people who want to have something addressed, but is to teach people because everybody has the ability to learn to do this. And what happens is it just takes for the majority of people, it takes a little bit of time for them to develop the confidence because the first thing is when they learn dowsing is they'll have vastly more questions than when they
yes,
start. Because
yes,
all of a sudden it sounds easy, it sounds simple, but all of a sudden you start thinking about these things. But our goal is to empower people
Yeah.
to do the work who have that desire. Not everybody who comes to us for dowsing wants to learn dowsing. That's perfectly
Even though
okay.
we want to teach it.
Yeah.
of course, yeah.
We often, well, Sven wrote a beautiful book called Transformational Tools. It's about our experiences in dowsing. It gives the reader
Yeah.
like an idea of what's possible because it's all stories. And then after he wrote that, people said, well, how do you do this? And I'm like, okay, well, then he created the Dowsing Kit, which is
Right.
really literally page 1, psychic chords. Here's the mantra. Here's how you say it. Here's how you work your pendulum. So that's been wonderful. But we end up giving that out a lot as a gift because it's just,
Right.
I don't know. It's part of our mission to get this work out there.
Yes, yeah, and it's a beautiful leaflet book on step by step how you can evolve or learn yourself. What my mind triggers a question for our listeners. If any listeners are interested in joining this dowsing lab, what can or have to do?
Well, the only prerequisite is to have some experience in dowsing or take it's a kind of an introductory course, really, although it goes into some depth with some protocols. But once they take that course or have had a course, so somebody came to me once and said, oh, it was coming to a retreat and it was kind of more a dowsing retreat and said, oh, I haven't taken your course, but I'm a dowser. So we just exchanged some emails. Well, what things are you familiar with? And it looked like many things were covered, So it just depends because really in that lab, we really all want to be on the same page and we want to, in a sense, and we want to be able to speak the same language is really.
Because if a person, the way that we will speak about some things is like a different language for some people. And if so, our dowsing lab that we have are all experienced dowsers. The only thing that we ask for is you have to be able to understand the language and go through a course. A course will welcome new people. And so that's what the lab is
Yeah.
about. And we have this online, don't we?
Yeah, everything's online. But
Everything is online, yes.
it's like Sven, I love that you said that the people in our lab now are experienced because some of them have been with us since the beginning of that lab.
Right.
But there are members that have joined in the last 2 years or so. But it's also one of those things that I remember from my dance days, and definitely in the healing world, is that no matter where you are on your journey, sometimes a mix, at least in the dance world, I remember going to taking classes, and people in the dance company would be in those classes, right? And I was going as a young student, and I would be like, I would just love to go stand next to him in class, and like, now I know what I was doing, kind of absorbing that energy.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you learn so much, so I think that in a way, because in the beginning we thought, how are we going to do this with beginners and experienced people? But it blends and it supports.
The
Yeah.
beginners they ask questions, and because they're new to it, but it's really nice because the questions that they're asking, it generates conversation amongst all of us.
Yeah.
Because if they're asking a question, it's usually always connected to somebody else in the group, and so they ask a question, and while I think this person is new to this work, it still generates thinking. It generates conversation among us, and we go quite in depth, quite when we're speaking about things, because these people, they're asking questions that
Can I
let's just
share
say
what we
they're
just did?
deep. Sure, of course.
So we just had a call. We just had a
That's
dowsing.
so lovely between you two. She looks at you and you stop talking, Sven.
I'm trained well.
He's trained. God forbid if there's a therapist watching us. Okay.
We're going back to codependent.
I think the straitjackets will be lying ready. Please tell, Susan.
Yeah, I wanted to tell because this was exciting. So with the lab, and now yes, there's always time during that call for questions or conversation, but now the lab is sort of focusing on what can we do as this small but powerful group of 11 people, right, or 12 of us, that we can do, which will benefit ourselves, but also the collective, right? And so we took on a project this month that was doing what we call a protocol that we do is called soul retrieval, right? And its roots, as Sven says, are in the shamanic form, but with the dowsing, a soul retrieval, because all of that information from what a soul retrieval was from a shaman doing this was distilled into this beautiful, succinct form that can take place in 5 minutes versus 5 hours. And not to say, I mean, when we lived in Ecuador, we went to some beautiful day-long overnight ceremonies. But this is what also I really like about the work, is that it's very efficient and it can be done fast. As one of our teachers used to say with exorcism, like when an entity possession was, we can, in this dowsing world, we can do this. And like before the church ever gets its candles lit, right? And it's true. But I want to talk about the project. Hold on.
Okay.
So just to say,
I love you too.
just to say what that project was, in case anybody's interested. We did what we called a soul retrieval for, some people will call the oversoul. We said the collective soul of humanity.
Hey.
And because we were looking at this 2-year period of what we've all endured and gone through, and the fear that's come up, the anger that's come up, the grief that's come up, we did this as a group. So it's very powerful to do a douse with a group of dowsers. And then we measured the results, and we got some good there was some nice results from it. So we'll see. You know, it's always one of those things when you do a DAOs like that, you can measure the results right then and there, just like for a soul retrieval for a person. But it's one of those things that we always say, well, we don't really know what we just did. You know, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah.
We did a thing with a property in New Zealand, and it was a peninsula, and there was a history of war there. And when we asked, everybody was sick. There was 50 different properties, farms on the peninsula, and a woman called us. She was sick. Her husband, they weren't getting along well.
Oh, the
The
dogs
kids,
too.
the dogs, everybody, all the neighbors were sick. And so we did our usual clearing, and we looked at the land. And we asked permission before we do something, and the answer was no. And we go, why? Why is it no? And the land spoke to us, and the land said, because you're not just doing this property. We don't look at your, what do you call those
Those
GPS
GPS
lines?
lines.
If you're going to clear the land, we want you to clear the peninsula. At this time, we were living on the mountain in Ecuador, and it generated some thoughts with us about doing a soul retrieval for the planet, for what humankind, humanity has done with regard to damage to the planet. So we put it out, and we had a number of people that we had worked with, and we ended up with 18 countries, all on the call together, participating, and we did a soul retrieval for the planet, for what, you know, and this was a big deal, and so for us doing this humanity thing for what was like lightweight, but boy, did it generate some discussion amongst us, because we didn't realize how heavy this would be for everybody. We were thinking it was a fairly light, easy thing, and we did the soul retrieval for the planet, and we had young people who were very wise, you know, who are very in tune, very awake, and everybody was on the call together, and a number of everybody, or the people on the call, participated. When we got done with the soul retrieval, I'm not going to share everything about it, but I'll share this. We only got like 92% back, and so we asked the land, the planet, why 92%? And the planet said, because we've heard your promises before.
We heard you.
We've heard your promises before.
Yeah.
And we want to see, because, you know, there's been promises made for the planet, for the earth.
Yeah.
And this is what Susan was leading to, was sometimes it's not 100%. We get like upper 80s, 90%, and there's an integration process, because it's important to be harmonious and gentle when we're introducing things back into people, because sometimes it can be too much. And we've had to learn this, is we got to look at someone when we're working with them and learn to
Read the signs, huh?
read the signs, like, you know, hey, we're dipping into some deep stuff here. Let's go easy and gentle, because we have a tendency, we just like go there. And so sometimes we got to be like we got to be soft, gentle
Yeah.
when we're
Yeah.
working.
Because from my experience, all energy, the healing energies, the universal energies, they are soft. But sometimes we as a human, we try to force strength on it, you know. They don't want us to do that. It's just you give and then you let go and it will roll on, you know. And I'm talking just with one or two persons. So I think it's surely necessary when you do that on a whole collective, you know. And the collective needs a bit of healing and support at the moment. Surely our beautiful mother planet, Mother Earth, she needs our support. And I think, me personally, I think it's beautiful what you guys are doing and are giving back to the planet, to the Mother Earth, trying to get this gentle energy into the vibration of the earth and humankind, you know. And then when you've done the, well, let's call it, when you've done the job, right? That you just sit back and relax and say like, right, let's see,
Let's
you know,
see. Exactly.
that you don't want to, extra things and everything. It's so beautiful. I think that's also what you as a couple and as each individual, being Susan, being Sven, but surely as a couple that makes you guys so unique on this planet. And we all know that there are more couples working together in spirit and in the energetic realms. But for me, you guys are unique.
This is really fun because our late teacher, Verna, she when this is when Susan had her dance company. I had my Rolfing practice, and we were completely separate in our work lives. And Verna said to us, Susan came on a retreat where I had clients there, and Verna said to us, she says, "You guys will be working together in the future." And we looked at her like, "You're nuts. What do you mean? I have my practice. Susan has her company." And she told us that way back when, and we looked at each other and we thought, no way.
Yeah, that was a look into the future, because I think I almost fell out of my chair laughing, like, what? I don't know where she's going to pull this one down from.
Yeah, and look at you two now.
I know it.
Yeah.
I have one more question for our listeners.
Okay.
How can people reach out to you?
Well, they can reach out, and I just want to, they can reach out through our website. We have two websites. One is susanandsven.com, and the other one is spiritdoctorteam.com, and both of those have a contact us. And so either way, Spirit Doctor Team is maybe easier to remember, susanandsven.com, and you can reach us there. You can see what we're up to. We try to keep that updated, and and then our courses are the Dowsing online courses there too. Where we have a third site. Oh my gosh, I forgot, the Dowsing Lab. They might want to visit that one, actually, dowsinglab.com. And that's easy. And there's a free gift module to explore the dowsing course to see if it might be something for you. There's a free gift module, then you can read about it. And
And we made some videos that are free that people can look at if they have an interest on different types of dowsing or the breath work, and the spirit doctors also, correct?
Yeah, I think at that center, in the Susan and Sven site has a gift library that you can sort of find things there.
Right.
They're free to the audience. Yeah.
So I think if people just open Google and they type Susan and Sven, they will find you guys on a website. They will find you on YouTube. They will find you, I think, Facebook also, right?
Yeah, Facebook.
So I think people will find you.
Yeah, no worries.
SusanandSven.com, dowsinglab.com, and spiritdoctors.com.
Spiritdoctorteam.com.
Excuse me, spiritdoctorteam.com, right? So on these websites, guys, you can contact Susan and Sven if you have more questions. If you think like, well, yeah, I think they can be of some benefit for me, please do so. Please contact. I can vouch for them.
Yeah, thank you.
I can't vouch. I do vouch for them. And well, I must say this was so an interesting talk. I enjoyed this so much. I learned a few things. So, and I would really, really like to thank you for joining me in this podcast series, to do me the honor of speaking to me in this podcast series. So,
well, Guy, we really look forward to you and your beautiful wife being back here for another visit in person.
Yeah.
whenever that may happen.
I think in 2022.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good year. It's a good year.
It's a good year.
It's a very good year.
It is
The
a-
energy vibration of 222 is, oh yes, and we are just a few weeks away from full strength. So
Exactly.
let's rock, I would say.
That's right.
Susan and Sven, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy.
And
Everybody.
to our listeners,
Yeah.
please contact them. Thank you.
Well, okay.
Bye.